Kamala Harris will unveil her choice of running mate within hours, completing the Democratic ticket as the election campaign enters its final months. Governor Josh Shapiro, Senator Mark Kelly, and Governor Tim Walz had in-person meetings with the Democratic nominee over the weekend. Other contenders have reportedly also met Ms. Harris in person or virtually in the last few days. Ms. Harris was formally nominated at the top of the ticket in a roll call vote on Monday, and she holds her first event with her vice presidential pick in Philadelphia on Tuesday evening. They will take on Republican Donald Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance in the presidential election in November. Here is a look at the names believed to be in the frame to be her number two, starting with the three generating most buzz. This charismatic and popular governor could help Ms. Harris capture Pennsylvania, a must-win for Democrats. The 51-year-old captured national headlines after quickly working to rebuild a collapsed bridge on a pivotal Philadelphia highway last year. He would be the first Jewish vice president if chosen by Ms. Harris and the Democratic ticket proves victorious. Mr. Shapiro voiced strong support for Israel in the war in Gaza, and his criticism of student protests on school campuses in his state could be divisive in the Democratic Party and the race for office. Vulnerabilities. Public education advocates have pointed to Mr. Shapiro's support of private school vouchers in Pennsylvania, a Republican-backed proposal to send $100 million to families for private school tuition and school supplies, as a potential weakness of Mr. Shapiro's. In mid-July, a group of over 24 pro-public school groups sent a letter to Ms. Harris in which they urged her to pick another candidate who is wholly committed to our nation's public education system. The swing state senator has an impressive resume that could appeal to voters on both sides of the aisle. The former Navy combat pilot and NASA astronaut has spent more than 50 days in space on multiple missions. But Mr. Kelly, 60, is newer to serving in Washington. He was sworn into office in December 2020. His wife is Gabby Giffords, who was shot in the head 2011 in Arizona while serving in the House of Representatives. Ms. Giffords has since become one of the leading voices on gun safety laws, and the couple's personal story could resonate with voters. Mr. Kelly's strong border stance and occasional criticisms of the Biden administration could help appeal to independent and conservative voters. If chosen, the party would need to fill his Senate vacancy in a key state. Vulnerabilities. Mr. Kelly has already come under some criticism for his role founding Worldview, a company specialized in high-altitude stratospheric balloons. The firm received early venture capital funding from Chinese tech giant Tencent, although the company says it has zero access, zero input, and zero control over it. Mr. Kelly stepped away from the company in 2019, although he still has a financial stake in it through a blind trust. Tim Walz, Minnesota governor. Mr. Walz is a battle-tested leader who served 12 years in Congress before becoming governor in 2018. He has gained national attention for his strategy calling Donald Trump and J.D. Vance weird. The phrase caught on with a number of Democrats, including Ms. Harris. "He's just a strange, weird dude," Mr. Walz said of Trump during a fundraising event on Monday. His plain-spoken and small-town Midwestern persona could appeal to independent and conservative voters. The 60-year-old led Minnesota through the 2020 protests over George Floyd's death in Minneapolis. He deployed the National Guard to help quell riots that broke out during the demonstrations. Mr. Walz served 20 years in the National Guard, taught high school, and also worked as an assistant football coach. Vulnerabilities. Mr. Walz's political foes have criticized his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and the 2020 protests, with Minnesota GOP Chairman David Hann recently telling Fox that he believes Mr. Walz was fearful of alienating his progressive base with a more forceful response. Andy Beshear, Kentucky governor. The Democratic governor has been close to Ms. Harris for a long time. Mr. Beshear, 46, has been able to carve out a successful career as a Democrat in a state that Donald Trump carried by 20 points in the last election. It is an appealing characteristic that could sweeten the Democratic ticket. He has given a number of viral interviews criticizing Donald Trump's vice presidential choice, J.D. Vance, and his opinions on the Appalachia region. "He ain't from here," Mr. Beshear has said of the freshman Ohio senator, calling Mr. Vance a fake for his descriptions of the region and its residents in his book, Hillbilly Elegy. Kindly like, Subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments section.